even though it's been happening for a while, I haven't actually made a dedicated video on this. Can I just rant about the absolute state of the PC industry right now? And frankly, not even just PCs, just consumer electronics in general. If you're someone that likes tech, or if you're someone who is just getting interested in tech and, maybe you want to build your first computer, this is a horrible time to do so. This is an awful time to do so. I'm a Linux gamer, and obviously I care about things like the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck did an absolutely phenomenal thing for both Linux gaming and the Linux desktop in general. Obviously, Proton already existed, but it showed the regular gamer that Linux is actually viable for gaming, as long as you don't play, multiplayer competitive nonsense. Everything else, great experience, it's amazing, and things have been getting better. Even though when it first launched, it was in the middle of a global supply chain shortage. And now, we don't have a global supply chain shortage, we have a global RAM shortage and a global flash storage shortage. And now, the Steam Deck is just not in stock in most of the world. There are still third-party sellers that are selling the Steam Deck, but those are obviously going to dry up eventually. There's going to be secondhand sellers, things like that. So there's going to be some, stock floating around, but you just can't easily buy a Steam Deck right now, which, what does that mean for the Steam machine? How much of this is Valve taking any allocation they had and then moving it over to the Steam machine? And how much of this is Valve just not having anything to build anything? We don't know what's happening with the Steam machine because Valve is being relatively quiet about it, and I understand why, because I don't think they know what's happening either. They probably have some numbers that are floating around, some ideas of what's going on, but until they are ready to launch something, it's really hard to commit to anything right now. So they put out this post a little while ago, basically trying to answer some of the questions like pricing and timing and things like that. And pretty much what they said is, due to RAM pricing, we don't know. Due to storage pricing, we don't know. I'm sure they had a relatively sane price in mind initially. But when you talk about PC-like pricing now, that's well over $1,000. And all of this is because of absolutely ridiculous RAM and also flash storage pricing, primarily being caused by a massive demand for AI data centers. Prime example of that, OpenAI secured roughly 40% of the world's RAM supply for their Stargate project, and that lasts, I believe they have it until 2028 or something stupid like that. And that's just one project and one company. There are lots of others, and if you're making RAM, I understand why you're not selling to consumers, and if you are, you're raising the price because you have guaranteed sales going right to the AI companies, going to the AI data centers. If you're a company, that is logically the thing you would do. Now, I do wish they would up production, and this would become less of a problem. But this is the state we're in. What makes this especially bad is whilst you as a consumer might go and buy your RAM DIMMs from all of these different companies, when we talk about the actual production of the RAM chip modules that go on the DIMMs, there's basically 3 companies that do 90% of the world's production. That is Samsung, SK Hynix, and Micron, who also make the RAM for your GPUs, who also make not as much, but together a majority of the flash storage modules, closer to 60-65%. We are seeing DDR5 pricing go upwards of 4x the price within a year. Modules that you bought, January last year, let's say it was $200. $800 for the exact same thing. Now, there is some very recent reports of minor price drops in Europe. This literally just happened like 2 days ago. I wouldn't put too much stock in this. A lot of people are going to see this and be like, oh my god, prices are finally coming down. This is amazing. Prices are coming down. Firstly, it's a small drop. It's still upwards of 4x the price. It's just not 5x the price anymore. So that's something at least. Also, my expectation is they literally cannot sell it at that price. So people are just not buying it. And we'll get more to that in just a minute. Also, I would expect that a lot of the people that were buying RAM anyway probably have stopped panic buying. So with less panic buying, there's less of a sort of push to raise the price even further. Without long-term data, it's really hard to say exactly what is happening here, but I really don't think prices are going to just come back down, let alone come back down to where they were. I don't think prices are ever going back to where they were. We're not going to see prices like this anymore. What's going to happen is prices will come down eventually, but I expect still probably minimum double the price. Probably even more than that. There's no world where you're seeing things return to how they were. You know what happened with GPU prices post-COVID. Things are not going back to the way they were. Things have been getting so bad that for a while, people were buying up SODIMM modules, which is laptop RAM, and then using an adapter to run that in their desktop system. It technically sort of works. It can be a little unstable, but at least at the time, it hadn't yet been hit by the price hike, at least anywhere near as much. Even now, it has gone up. It's just not as much because there's just way less interest in laptop memory, and getting it working is a bit rough. As for regular desktop RAM, a lot of people aren't even considering GDDR5 platforms. A lot of them are just staying on DDR4. But even then, we are seeing people who are building DDR3 machines. People are buying DDR3 motherboards, DDR3 memory, older CPUs that use a DDR3 motherboard, and we're seeing price rises there. Now, the thing is, for a lot of people, if you're not doing, like, rendering, you're not playing the most up-to-date games on the highest settings, if you just need a computer, frankly, a DDR3 machine is actually totally fine. Now, for some reason, and I don't know how people had this much copium, there were people going around saying Chinese RAM was gonna save the day. Chinese RAM, it's so much cheaper. It works in a regular motherboard. Oh my god, we just buy Chinese RAM and then everything is good. So China has some domestic manufacturers that weren't really selling globally. As such, hadn't really been hit by the price hikes, and it's just regular RAM. It's by some companies that exist in China. People started buying the RAM, and hey, guess what happened when they started selling more outside of China? They just sold at market rate, and then the discount is just gone. What I will say is having more manufacturers of RAM is going to put global supply chain pressure on RAM pricing, and probably will affect pricing to some extent. However, there are AI companies in China, and Chinese AI companies are going to want RAM as well, so they're not going to just sit back and just ignore a local supplier. So this idea that Chinese RAM would save the day just didn't even make any sense as a premise. Now, RAM has been the main focus because RAM has been the most affected by the problem. But flash memory, again, is made by mostly the same companies, and also has been having a price hike. This means your 2.5-inch SSDs, your M.2 drives, fun stuff like this. It also means any devices that happen to have flash storage, like, you know, phones, and everything else that has storage, basically, because pretty much no one is using a spinning metal disc, especially in a device that is supposed to be portable. It's been nowhere near as bad. We've seen price hikes in the range of 30 to 60%, sometimes worse depending on the region. I recently had to buy a new drive. It was 400 Australian dollars for a 2 terabyte drive. I was not happy about it, but I had to buy it. I needed the drive. And that's the problem, right? I needed a drive. I needed my computer to be working correctly. You can't just not buy it. Now, there's secondhand stuff, but because the primary new market is going up, the secondhand market is also going to be going up. Also, secondhand drives can be a little bit iffy. Secondhand RAM's definitely a lot better. But again, if you see the market is saying $1,600 for 32 gigabytes of RAM, what's your secondhand RAM going to be charged at? Probably pretty close to that. And while storage isn't as bad just yet, prices are expected to continue rising at least for the rest of the year. I would honestly expect longer. And when we're talking about businesses, right? Businesses will buy computers because they have to. But what about regular people? What are regular people doing? So we're also seeing price raises happening with GPUs, which is also great. So here's where we're at. GPUs are going up, RAM's going up, storage is going up. What about the things that don't have those issues? What's happening there? Well, prices of motherboards are not going up, but if you can't buy the RAM for it, if you can't buy a new GPU, if you can't buy storage, well, it's pretty logical what's going to happen. No one's buying CPUs, down 51% year on year. And the exact same thing is happening with motherboards, down 50%, because if you can't build a PC, why would you buy the parts that haven't gone up? And if you have a PC right now and it works, why would you leave the platform that's going to charge you a lot more money? If you have working RAM, like, unless you just really want to upgrade, you have like a business reason to do so, it's really getting hard to justify actually spending that money. For some reason early on, there was this idea that like consoles were not gonna be affected by the pricing. I don't know where anyone got that idea, because consoles have all of the same problems that PCs have here. It's just you don't really get to see the price of the individual components, and well, there's been some price hikes. Also, sometimes with consoles, the price hikes aren't directly with the console. It's going to be price hikes with their subscriptions and other things surrounding it, or game price increases, things where they can make back the money in various other ways. This is happening to the entire tech industry. Many consumer electronics manufacturers will go bankrupt or exit product lines by the end of 2026 due to the AI memory crisis, Phison CEO reportedly says. This is a problem that is going to affect everyone. Even if you don't have a PC, this is going to affect phones. It's going to affect tablets. It's going to affect laptops. It's going to affect desktops. It's going to affect consoles. It's going to affect cars. Not to the same extent, because they tend to have not that much RAM, and the price of the RAM is very small in comparison to the rest of the car. But as cars get more technologically advanced, there's more electronics, there's more RAM, there's more storage. Everything electronic gets affected. Consumer electronics will see a large number of failures. From the end of this year to 2026, this was the end of 2025, many system vendors will go bankrupt or exit product lines due to a lack of memory. Mobile phone production will be reduced by 200 to 250 million units, and PC and TV production will be significantly reduced. Oh yeah, didn't mention that one. Also, TVs, yeah, because, you know, smart TVs have lots of additional RAM in them, and yay. Imagine if you're, like, you work at an artisan PC builder right now. You must be terrified about what's going to happen over the next, like, year, or actually, best case estimates say this is going to last until, like, 2028. Some are even predicting out to 2030. If you're an artisan PC builder, if you manage to stay in business for all this time, I'm going to be genuinely impressed. Because if you're a Dell, if you're an HP, if you have government and business contracts, governments and businesses will continue buying whatever you charge them. But if you're trying to sell to regular people, you run a gaming PC company, I can only imagine that your numbers probably look pretty similar to what we're seeing happen to CPUs, what we're seeing happen to motherboards, possibly even worse. Another very fun thing that's been happening is there's been talk of HP having a gaming laptop subscription service, a rental laptop, a lease laptop. Leasing is pretty common in the corporate world. Lease to own is pretty common for consumers, but there is no owning here. There is, you are renting the laptop. Now, is this a bad deal? The problem is it's really hard to say that it is with the way things are right now. Because basically it is like 16 to 19 months of the price that you pay to purchase the device. And you're going to be able to get upgrades and other things like that. So I don't like it. I really don't like it. But it's not a bad deal for a lot of people. And that's really annoying to me. I don't like the idea of renting a laptop. Business is obviously different, but like a personal laptop that you're renting. But with things the way they are, I see why people might be interested. Funnily enough, also, we all know that Apple does like ridiculous RAM pricing, but Apple has yet to increase their RAM prices. If they have, it's been like a very minor increase. This somehow makes Apple a good deal for RAM. I don't know how this world exists. Obviously, they're going to raise prices with the next device, but I don't know how this world exists and how we got here. So, everything sucks. Everything is going to keep sucking, and, well, it's a really bad time to be a young person that wants to get involved in tech, isn't it? But hey, maybe, just maybe, this is the excuse for people to write good optimized code. If they don't have fast hardware, they gotta make it work somehow. That's my copium. That's my hopium. It's not gonna happen, but hey, maybe. Anyway, what's probably going to happen is everyone like cloud computing and nobody owns a computer and anyway, yeah. If you liked the video, go like the video, go rant about your experience down below, how much you hate everything right now, and if you really like the video, go subscribe as well. If you really like the video and you want to become one of these amazing people over here, check out the Patreon, subscribe, Sally Therapy, linked in the description down below. That's going to be it for me, and what do I say?